North Carolina Supreme Court will decide in the next 2 or 3 weeks whether to overturn the election for one of its members, Justice Allison Riggs, and that decision is going to have major implications for North Carolina's democracy for decades to come. And it's probably all going to come down to one guy. To understand how all this works, you have to understand who is on our state Supreme Court and how it works. So let's break it down really quick. The North Carolina Supreme Court has 7 members and currently has a 5-2 Republican majority. 7 members means 4 votes makes a majority. So let's talk about who some of those votes could be. The first 3 of these are pretty easy. Chief Justice Paul Newby and Associate Justices Phil Berger Jr. and Tamara Berenger are all Republican politicians in judges' robes. They are hardcore partisans. They will vote for anything that helps Republicans and hurts Democrats. The merits of the case do not really matter, so they are 3 very likely votes to overturn the election. So that leaves the other 2 Republican politicians on the court, Richard Dietz and Trey Allen. Now, these guys are both conservative Republican politicians. They were elected as such. But Richard Dietz did write a dissent saying he didn't think the Griffin case should be heard at all. It sounds like he's leaning against overturning any elections, which is great. But that leaves Trey Allen. Now, Trey Allen, also a very conservative guy. He actually started his legal career clerking for Paul Newby when he was a lower court judge. Trey Allen is a conservative guy, and he actually agreed to hear the case, even if he sounded a little skeptical about overturning the election, so he might be a wild card here. Or he might not be, and he's totally on board with overturning an election. We just don't know. Either one of those guys voting would make 4 votes to overturn the election, and that's game. So what about the Democrats? There are 2 Democratic justices on our state Supreme Court. The first is Justice Anita Earls. She spent her entire career as a civil rights attorney. She's not going to vote to overturn any elections. The other one, of course, is Allison Riggs herself, who won this election, and she did something interesting here. She recused herself from the case. Now, obviously, that makes a certain amount of sense. Allison Riggs probably should not be ruling on her own election, but no one can make her recuse. She chose to do that because it's the right thing to do, and she's a principled person. Even though recusal is increasingly very rare on our state Supreme Court, even in cases where it's absolutely called for. Chief Justice Paul Newby routinely rules on cases involving Duke Energy, which his family has a direct financial interest in. Tamara Berenger rules on cases involving laws that she voted on while a member of the state Senate. And of course, Phil Berger Jr. Routinely rules on cases involving his father, Phil Berger Sr., who is the senior Republican leader of the state Senate. A lot of people don't know that, by the way. Associate Justice Phil Berger Jr. is the son of Republican Senate leader Phil Berger Sr., who is arguably the most powerful politician in the state. I wonder how he got that job. So that's the state of play here. The 4th vote to potentially overturn this election could come from either Trey Allen or from Richard Dietz, maybe even from both of them. We don't really know. And those guys have to weigh a couple of considerations here. Not only the legal and constitutional and ethical considerations of overturning the voters' will, but also the political implications as well, because anyone who votes against the Republican majority in a case this high profile is almost certain to catch a primary when they are up for re-election in a couple of years by a more conservative challenger who will do whatever the party says. And at that time, that judge may not have the party's backing, and he's likely to lose. Back in 2018, when Republican lawmakers in our legislature made judicial elections partisan once again, this is the situation everyone worried about, that inevitably, judges are going to be pressured to make their decisions based on political considerations and not just legal and constitutional ones. That is what we are seeing playing out right now, and no one really knows how it's going to go.